What's the most satisfying hardware for a gamer? I'd say keyboards. And Asus has done some major steps in trying to convince you that their new keyboards will feel the best in the market. Hello, my name is Lauris from the channel Consumer, and let's talk switches. Arguably, but the most important thing for a keyboard is its switches. Why arguably? Simply because some might say that the chassis and the build quality could be the priority, but I will argue saying that in a day-to-day use, you feel the switches more. Be it for typing or for playing games where several important things come in effect and the build quality takes second place, as you don't really snuggle your keyboard that often, but just use the switches. Now, ROG has traditionally relied heavily on using probably the most mainstream switches of them all, being the Cherry MX lineup. But in the last couple of years, ROG have decided that they can make a better switch for the keyboard, and they started this with the most popular switch, the red or linear one. Now, what constitutes a good switch? There are a number of factors that need to be considered, and you could be forgiven if you never thought about them before. But now you will have a good overall understanding how many aspects you need to consider about keyboards that you will never be able to pick up a low-budget keyboard without thinking about these points, or even trying them out to find the keyboard that is closest to the needs you have. In very simple terms, a switch consists of a housing, a switch stem, a keycap, sliders, contact leaves, and springs, and sometimes LED diodes. All these things are subject to change to create the best switch possible. Let's start with the least important technically, but aesthetically most important aspect, the lighting. Many keyboard manufacturers treat keyboard lighting as something to do at the last moment, or even as unimportant. Some switch manufacturers just put in the LED diode somewhere, not providing a consistent or well-illuminated effect. ROG has decided to put it in the center of the switch to ensure even light distribution, thus helping the overall aesthetic. The next part is the keycap. It really doesn't have that much of an impact on the keyboard, but it's still the thing that is the easiest to replace and change up. Nevertheless, you can't put any keycap on any switch, or its stem to be precise, as these must match. So that is the important part to consider. Good thing that ROG uses mainly PBT double-shot keycaps for their main keyboards, which means they are of better quality. With the ROG RX switches, I will combine the housing and the stem, as these, to put it in simple terms, come hand in hand. The housing ensures the overall durability and holds the stem in place, but the stem is where variation in the market comes from. Traditionally, these stems are wider at the bottom, and then a single slim part is where the switch comes on. Additionally, not providing consistent actuation point when you press. When writing with these switches, this is maybe not a big deal. Just return to the missed letter and input it. ROG's own switches boast 1.5mm actuation point, and the initial force of 40 grams prevents accidental keystrokes. And these 40 grams go all the way up to 55 for perfect rebound feedback. For the blue switches that are normally preferred by gamers in these RX Blue, Asus has inputted the operation force up to 65 grams. But in gaming or even professional gaming, it is the highest standard to ensure that the keystrokes and actuation points remain consistent throughout the press of any key. And these RX switches accomplish exactly that, because as opposed to these traditional approaches with that central stem, they are cornered. Subsequently, you can press anywhere with the same force, and they will register equally as good. So basically, no wobble, consistent key press recognition, and precise actuation. These charts show that during testing, ROG achieved the force deviation reduction by half for these RX Red switches and by about 47% for the RX Blues. All this is accompanied by the not-so-traditionally looking stabilizers in each switch. Traditionally, you would have a combined slider and stem, but ROG has decided that this approach just creates a lot of unnecessary rattling, wobbling, and a whole bunch of other problems in the pursuit of a perfectly actuating switch. So, X stabilizer is their answer. And it indeed gives additional satisfactory sounding and pressing sensation compared to your Cherries, Kales, or Gatorons. Naturally, the manufacturing process is more expensive compared to competitors, but the things we do for improvement, right? Overall, today I wanted to highlight that ROG has two new mainstream keyboards that already have RX Red switches and are completely awesome. I personally have acquired a Claymore 2 for me because these XLs need filling. But a more gamer-centric one would be the Scope TKL. ROG will offer these also with the RX Blue switch versions, but at the time of recording this video, they mainly ship out with the popular RX Red switch versions. Besides these awesome switches, there are serious upgrades over the Cherries and the bunch. These are like premium keyboards with a premium switch built from the ground up in-house by ROG. To start off with the Claymore 2, it is a much better looking, feeling and sounding keyboard than the predecessor. I personally totally am a fan of it, mainly because when gaming I can use the TK-L version or 10 keyless version, and when I'm working I can just take this attachment, slide it on to the right or left side, and if that is not convenience, then I don't know what is. Additionally, it can connect to your workstation of choice via 2.4 GHz wireless or USB-C connection. Actually, I've even tested this in conjunction with a smartphone to use on an external screen, and the input lag is manageable, mainly due to the phone's limitations rather than the keyboard's. It is tastefully illuminated, and after months of using it, it still feels like brand new. And that is a testament to the build quality and switch quality ROG have put in this keyboard. The other keyboard, also coming with RX Red switches, is the Scope RX TK-L wireless. Just like the Claymore, it is a premium keyboard built with premium materials and can connect to your device also, either via Bluetooth, 2.4 GHz wireless, and as well as a wired USB-C version. As it is by default built as a TK-L keyboard, it is perfectly suited for gamers. I totally love how ROG has implemented the illuminated logo that can confuse bystanders, and you can forgive them for thinking it's not RGB illuminated. But it is! The switches are exactly the same, the chassis is high quality metals, and it sounds totally different than a keyboard with more mainstream switches. Take a listen for yourself. I hope you could hear the difference in sound. Sadly, a video doesn't convey the feeling how much better these RX switches feel whilst typing, but trust me, you would love them. And with this, I thank you for watching this video, getting educated about keyboard switches, and like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see what other great products Asus and ROG have released or what Nikita is showing off, and we will definitely see each other in a different video. Bye!